Sergio Perez's poor performance in qualifying has continued as he failed to make it to Q3 for the fifth consecutive race. This has reignited talks about replacing him. With Verstappen leading the Constructors Championship on his own, Red Bull may not need Perez for much longer. If Perez keeps making mistakes like this, Red Bull might lose patience and consider other potential candidates for his seat. Will Red Bull pull the plug on Perez, and who could be the perfect fit to challenge Verstappen's reign? Get ready for a high-speed dive into the intense world of F1 drama, where rivalries collide and careers hang in the balance. This is the Perez predicament you can't afford to miss. But before we do that, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below if you like all things F1. Alright, now let's get back to the video. The previous race was a terrible qualifying experience for Perez, similar to his performance in Monaco. He exited Q1 and finished in 16th place. Some argue that the team made a mistake by sending him out on slick tires to set the fastest lap, as other drivers behind him had warmer tires and easily surpassed his time. Having the 16th fastest time on the grid while his teammate cruised with a 1-second lead over his rivals highlights the stark contrast in performance. This stark difference could lead to Perez losing his seat sooner rather than later. When discussing his poor performance in Silverstone, particularly after the qualifying session, Perez expressed the following: "The red flag lasted a lot longer than we initially thought, so we ended up waiting a lot longer and that was a bit unfortunate. These conditions are where I struggled the most. The changeable conditions are something that we need to get on top of when we're able to do better." Verstappen is clearly the top driver right now, with exceptional talent that is hard to rival. However, considering the capabilities of the RB19 car, one would expect it to consistently secure second place, similar to what Perez achieved in earlier races when Verstappen wasn't winning in Baku and Jeddah. The only exceptions were Australia, where Perez had a qualifying mistake that placed him far behind Verstappen. Unfortunately, Perez hasn't been able to showcase his full potential with the car, which might affect his chances of staying in Red Bull. Despite the struggles of other drivers, like Fernando Alonso, who haven't been able to challenge Perez for second place in recent races, there's no guarantee that he will continue with Red Bull. Mark Webber, the former Red Bull driver and current manager of Oscar Piastri, was the first to speak up about the situation with the Mexican driver. He mentioned that even though he himself in his 40s, he believes he could still finish well with the RB19 car. However, if Perez doesn't start delivering good results in qualifying, he could lose his second place spot in Drivers' Championship. This is why Red Bull is currently hesitant about keeping Perez. On the other hand, Verstappen, the main driver for Red Bull, doesn't think he needs Perez's help. When asked about his teammate's recent poor performance, he didn't seem concerned at all. Verstappen even mentioned that he doesn't rely on Perez to lead the Constructors' Championship fight because he already has more points than the second-place team, Mercedes, by a margin of 52. When discussing his teammates' underperformance, Verstappen continued by stating, "You have to ask Helmut or Christian about that. We're fighting for the team championship, but I think I can do that alone at the moment." It's important to note that these statements were made prior to the start of the Silverstone Grand Prix. Currently, Verstappen is maintaining a steady lead over Mercedes. However, despite Sergio Perez contributing a decent number of points with a 6th-place finish at Silverstone, his performance is not meeting expectations. Perez seems to be struggling with the car, and surprisingly, it's not due to any issues with the car's design or philosophy as in previous years. Instead, it appears to be a loss of confidence and motivation to drive. There is concern that if the unpredictable conditions persist in future races, Perez's future with Red Bull may be in jeopardy. The noticeable decline in his performance is evident compared to the first few races of the 2023 season, where he won 2 out of the 4 events. After the Baku Grand Prix, Perez was only 6 points behind Verstappen in the championship standings. Expectations were high for Perez to take the lead in Miami, especially since he started in first position while Verstappen was 9th. However, Verstappen's impressive performance, taking the lead in less than half the laps, shattered Perez's self-confidence. Perez himself admitted that he cannot match the level of performance Verstappen achieves in the RB19, especially after witnessing the events in Miami. This raises the question of whether we may see Perez being replaced soon, and who could potentially be the best candidate for that role. Currently, Daniel Ricciardo's name stands out prominently whenever the topic of Perez's potential replacement is discussed in the news. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has praised the decision to bring Ricciardo back from McLaren, highlighting his valuable contributions at the simulator. Ricciardo is working diligently to optimize the car setup for both Verstappen and Perez, a role that often goes unnoticed. If Ricciardo can demonstrate that he possesses the necessary qualities and exhibit greater hunger and motivation compared to Perez, there is a possibility of him reuniting with Red Bull, marking his return to the team after the 2018 season. Verstappen shares the belief that Ricciardo could be a suitable candidate for the seat at Red Bull. When asked about his thoughts on Ricciardo potentially joining the team, Verstappen responded, "He's doing a good job in the simulator, but that's not something I'm amazed about either. He obviously has some difficulty years at McLaren, but you don't lose your talent. He also has a lot of experience. I think he's just comfortable with us at the moment. I also know Daniel very well, so we can talk about a lot of things." One aspect that sets Daniel Ricciardo apart from Perez is his ability to bond and engage in meaningful conversations. Since Perez intentionally crashed during the qualifying session in Monaco last year to maintain an advantage over Verstappen, the team's chemistry has reached an all-time low. At this point, they have become two distinct drivers who are unwilling to support each other when needed. Such dynamics are common in teams that possess a championship-winning car, and it is not unlikely to occur in Ferrari or Mercedes if they contend for race victories at the top. However, when one driver is significantly underperforming, it becomes worth considering a replacement. With Verstappen's dominant performances, Perez's lost motivation, and Ricciardo's strong desire to make a comeback, the Austrian team faces an important decision regarding their future direction. Red Bull has a couple of promising talents to consider, such as Liam Lawson, currently racing in the Super Formula, and Alex Palou, who is competing in the IndyCar 500. Additionally, the potential return of Albon should not be ruled out, given his growth as a driver and his ability to extract performance from a challenging car at Williams. Ricciardo has expressed openness to an alternative path to rejoin the sport, which involves driving for AlphaTauri before transitioning back to Red Bull. This presents a valuable opportunity for Red Bull that they may not want to overlook. Ricciardo now understands his role within the Red Bull setup, and if given Perez's seat and the role of the second driver, he would willingly accept it and consistently compete for the second position. His experience with McLaren has had a significant impact on him, and he would bring that knowledge and determination to the team. In conclusion, the future of Sergio Perez at Red Bull hangs in the balance as his teammate Max Verstappen continues to dominate the field. Will Red Bull seek a replacement for Perez to strengthen their chances against Mercedes? Who could be the ideal candidate to partner with Verstappen? Who do you think will secure the coveted second spot in the championship? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.